All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 10:01, and thank you to anybody that is online live, and thank you to future listeners that are going to watch this on a recording. We appreciate it, and we hope that it is helpful for you. So my name is Carl Baker, and I am the managing member, the owner of Baker CFO Advisory. We work with companies on a fractional CFO basis, providing fractional CFO services, providing accounting services, really helping businesses on a outsourced basis to help business owners, nonprofits run their business. We work with established businesses, we work with startup businesses, we work with businesses in between. The types of businesses we work with include nonprofits. We have a pretty deep skill set and level of experience in healthcare enterprises. We work with small single owner consulting firms, marketing firms, contractors. Our experience is pretty deep. So with that in mind, again, thank you for being here. You might see, if you've watched our videos before, you might see that my background is a little bit different. I'm actually coming to you live from a hotel room on the East Coast. I got called away to a client on the East Coast. It happens to be a federally qualified health center, a community health center, providing primary care services, dental services, behavioral health services. So do some outsourced CFO work for that enterprise. We had some live meetings, and so last week I got called away to that. And so I am doing this presentation from the hotel room, and I catch a flight back to my home later this afternoon. And so in between, we'll do this live session. As I said, one of the things that we do is we work with enterprises of all types. And as I thought about ways we can educate people, we have pretty deep experience in working with companies that are pretty established. Maybe they need some help. Maybe they have some financial struggles. Maybe they just need some staffing help, special projects, interim CFO work. But we take that experience, and when I left my corporate life, I wanted to take that experience and bring it to organizations that wanted that help. So one of those types of organizations that I wanted to help is sole proprietors, businesses that are on their own. They decided they didn't want, for various reasons, to get a job. They wanted to work for themselves. Maybe they landed into it accidentally. Maybe they intentionally landed into that. But they're running a business on their own. And they might have goals for that business. Well, they all are going to have some sort of goals for the business. And I am here, our firm is here, the people that work with us are here to help those organizations grow and provide some part-time financial leadership, whether it's accounting services, et cetera, like we talked about. Before I forget, I wanted to also say, again, I've said it before, thank you to my assistant, Erica, who helps keep us in line here. She helps put the word out. She helps me with the presentations. So I just want to say thank you to Erica for that. I also want to say thank you to those of you who are here. You might have questions. Drop your questions in the chat, or I'll also tell you, you'll see a note in the room, in the chat room. You can reach out to me directly by calling our phone number. You can text that phone number. You can email me directly. You can find our information on our website, bakercfoadvisory.com. All kinds of ways you can reach out to us. If you don't want to reach out to me in this session, but you want to reach out in offline to have a private conversation, that's honestly why we're here. We're not high pressure salespeople. We're just trying to help and have conversations. And if we're a good fit, then fantastic. Let's see. Any other lead-in comments? I don't think so. So let's get started. As I started to go down this path, but as I started to think about what business owners out there are struggling with, and I just know in my community, across the country, in my sphere, in my social media sphere, there are people out there that are sole proprietors. And as I said, they have goals. They're wanting to grow their business possibly. And we'll talk a little bit more about the different paths, but they're trying to grow. They're trying to figure it all out. They're on their own. Maybe they have a bookkeeper. Maybe they have an annual tax accountant. Maybe they have their own mentor, but they really would like to have somebody that can just be a sounding board, somebody that can be an assistant to help them know how to get from point A to point Z with all the steps in between. And so we wanted to talk about that today. As this slide, every business will outgrow the systems that you have built. And if you're wanting to grow, then there does take some intentionality, there takes some process, and you don't have to do it alone. And we'll talk about a few nuggets that I hope you will get from this. But that's really why I'm doing this, to help you know that if you're going through this, you're going to want some help, and that peace of mind that comes from either getting the help from a financial leader like me and people on my team, or from some other way. You're going to want that help, and it will help you catapult yourself into a new phase of your business. So also, before I forget, and we'll talk about it a couple times, we have a very nice white paper, no pressure, but it's a very nice white paper on some of the processes that you'll need to take and the steps that you'll need to take to grow. Feel free to grab that on our website. You can find it in one of our download menus, and I believe we'll probably put it on our chat link here as well, but it's very easy to find on our website. So feel free to grab that. All right, so we have several stages, 3 or 4 stages, and let's just start hopping into this. How to know when you're ready to scale. Well, the first question, and I've talked about it in past sessions, understand why are you scaling, and then are you actually ready? So there are 3 bullet points on here, and I'm going to actually start with the bottom one because it addresses that why. Many sole proprietors, and a sole proprietor can have a business that is several $1 million. You can have a pre-revenue startup business. The dollars don't really matter. To an extent that it does. There will come a point when your ability to grow without assistance, without proper systems, without financing will probably be there. But you might be at a place where you're earning all the money you want to make. I've talked to several business owners that say, we're pretty happy with where we are. We're not trying to grow. We're trying to keep our clients happy. We're earning what we want. We don't want the complexity of more systems. We want to work in the business. We want to serve our clients. We're making money that we are happy with. And we don't think bigger is better. We just want to work in the business, serving our customers, serving our clients, and A-OK, no problem. That's fantastic. There are some companies, though, that say we want to get away from working in the business. We want to work on the business. And just understanding, and this is one of the nuggets that I hope to be able to articulate and impress upon you as you're watching this. There is a difference when you're a sole proprietor. There's a difference in running a business as a sole proprietor where you're wearing all the hats. You're wearing. We talk about all the hats later, but what you're wearing all the hats, and you know what those hats are. But we talk about it later. There's a difference between wearing all those hats and scaling and managing a business. And I articulate it by saying, do you want to work on the business or do you want to work in the business? And there's just an absolute difference. And once you understand that and you can answer which is better for you, then you can understand what your path is. And if your path, if the answer to that question is you want to work on the business, you want to scale, then the rest of this session is for you, because we're going to talk about what that means. We're probably not going to give bright line answers because it's different for every business, but we're going to talk about the process and some of the things that you will need to go through and address as you navigate through that. But a few other questions that you'll want to answer as you go through this. Why, besides the bigger is better or working on the business, what are some of the other questions? Are you scaling for freedom? Are you scaling to build a business for you to exit from? Are you scaling to build a business to pass on to your children? Are you scaling because there's just so much demand there and it's a part of your life mission, the impact? All are fantastic reasons, and just understand that there are things that go along with that as you begin scaling. And then the other question is, as you scale, does your infrastructure match your ambition? When you're a sole proprietor and you're making, a few $100,000 in revenues, there's a difference in the way that business will run versus a business that is scaling versus a business that is seeking financing, where you have third-party people, organizations that are looking at how your business is going, evaluating your business. There will come a day when you will need to put different sorts of infrastructure in place, and it's not all just finances. We're going to talk about finances, but there is infrastructure that needs to be put in place as you scale. So, are you ready to do that? What do you have now, and what do you need to put in place? And we're going to talk about a few of those things. But answering those questions is task number one. So what is the business life cycle of a growth capable company? Well, a few bullet points here: from founder-led to functionally structured. And that's the concept of getting out of being in the business and working on the business, and putting some of these structures in place. I talked to somebody recently and they said, we're actually planning to exit from our business, and we have put a process in place for absolutely everything we do, so that we have uniformity, so that when we have turnover, somebody knows how to come in and do that person's job. We have put structure in place. We put job descriptions in place. And that person that I was talking to is doing it because they want to set future leaders up for success. Plus, they want to make sure they are providing good services to customers. So there are all kinds of reasons for that. But having that functionally structured approach is important. We've talked about this a couple times already, but your role as the owner will change from serving customers, wearing all the hats, to being the leader in the business, leading the vision, and then making sure everything gets done. You might do some of those other roles, but your primary job will be to make sure that stuff is getting done in a non-chaotic, organized way. The cost of understanding the cost of staying in founder mode too long the cost is inability to obtain financing, inability to sell your business when you're ready, inability to actually, those are the two things that come to mind. There are probably others, but those are the two things that really come to mind. If you're looking to scale, you need to have a plan in place and things established in order to obtain that financing, in order to obtain investor monies, in order to obtain an exit plan. And if you don't have those things in place, that's going to be difficult. Other types of owner bottlenecks when you are the problem or the solution. A few bullet points here. How to identify when you're holding back your own business. Again, if you don't have the processes in place, if you think you're going to be able to just go to a bank without good financial reporting, without good processes, and ask for growth financing, I think you'll find that it will be difficult, and it might be too late. You need to be working on that structure before you need the financing, before you need growth capital, and it's just very important. And then it's also important to seek that financing before you really need it. And there's lots to that, but I think it's very important. I call it financing positioning. We talk about that. What are some of the other things? The risks of keeping too many decisions centralized. And I wanted to just put this in here. When you're running a business, there are several roles, and this actually comes from the EOS system, the entrepreneurial operating system. They've defined it in an organization chart in which there's a person that is managing the vision of the business. Then there's a person that is making sure that that vision gets implemented through being an operations director. Then under that, there are all the things that need to happen. There is HR, the hiring process, the sales process, the marketing process. Sales and marketing is different. The finance process, the customer service process, the actual execution, the actual delivery of your good or service. And when you're a business owner, you're probably wearing all of those hats. And as you scale, you don't necessarily go from wearing all the hats to wearing only one hat. You will scale that and phase out of some of those hats. And we'll talk about that later. But that's important to understand the concept of holding on to all of those tasks for too long. What's another thing here? What to let go of first and how to do it without losing control. We talked about the phases. And I thought about how to answer that question. And then there isn't a bright line. And you probably know in your business what's important to you. But I'm going to say probably it is learning how to leverage the actual delivery of the service to staff members. If you're doing all of it, then you're not going to be able to spend time in marketing and sales. And I'll tell you, the contractors that I've worked with and that I've interacted with, they tend to do that. They tend to be at a job, working on a job, and then at 2 p.m, they go talk to somebody about a home project, whether it's a deck building project, whether it's building a new home, whether it's building a commercial project. That does tend to be how contractors do that. They skip away from the client for a while, go work on a business development engagement, and then they come back and complete that. Understanding that as you scale, somebody needs to continue taking care of clients. And I think that's my opinion is job number one, making sure that you have people that can take care of your clients without you doing everything. That doesn't mean you're not supervising. It doesn't mean that you're not managing quality control. It doesn't mean that you're not aware. It just means that somebody needs to be performing the delivery of your service and goods as step number one. And then you start to move into other phases. Probably you have somebody helping you with your bookkeeping. You might have somebody helping you with sales in the business development aspect. And foreshadowing, you don't have to wait until you can afford to hire all of them on a full-time basis. You can phase these in with outsourced or part-time people or contracted people. And that's what we do in the finance space. And there are other companies that do part-time sales, part-time marketing, et cetera. So I think that's my point in that. Excuse me. All right, so we've laid the groundwork. We've had you be thinking about the whys and the whats and what's coming. So now that you're ready and you've decided, yes, I want to work on the business. I want to change the way I run this business. I want to change the way I spend my time. Now, what's your first move? So there are a few bullet points here. What readiness looks like in numbers, not just energy. Why clarity around constraints is more useful than excitement. The risk of defaulting to just hire someone. Oh, that's a big one. And then we'll talk in the few next slides about staffing. So what does readiness look like in numbers? And there, again, there's no bright line, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on all of these things, but it's understanding for your own case, what is your first move? And we've talked about beginning to leverage your customer delivery and understanding the infrastructure. And I think that's really what I mean when we talk about clarity around constraints is more useful than excitement. What is it? Ask yourself, what is holding you back? Where are we today? Where do we want to be in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years? Where do we want to be? And then back into what you need to do on a step-by-step basis. And I think you would want to break that down into probably a weekly, quarterly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis. and break those steps down, understanding what you want in the future. And that will put a plan in place for you that you can then follow. And the key then is to follow that plan. And you can already see that if you are wearing all the hats and you're trying to do that, manage these plans, it's just going to be difficult. So you really have to be ready to commit to that. What does readiness look like in numbers, not just energy? Well, again, there's not a bright line. For a contractor, it might be somebody that is in the several $100,000, and you're trying to get to some factor of 3 or 4 times. And I think the overall point is you need to be able to show some profitability. You need to be able to show legitimate demand, a legitimate business, and those are some foundational things to look at as you navigate. The risk of defaulting to just hire somebody. Anybody listening here ever hire somebody before and they realize that it was a bad move? The importance of hiring properly can't be understated. So let's move into some other staffing. Who to hire when you're already at full capacity. How to spot the role that unlocks the next level. Some benchmarks around revenue per role, and the cost of hiring too soon versus waiting too long. So we're going to talk about all of those. How to spot the role that unlocks the next level. Again, I think there are phases in this, and we've talked about the need to leverage your customer delivery, and then moving into what are some of the other things that you want to do. And it depends on what your business plan is, how fast you want to grow, what your exit plan is, what your needs are. But you are going to want to hire. I'm confident of it. You're going to want to leverage your customer delivery. I think that's important. And then again, just understanding you don't have to wait until you can afford to hire full time in all levels. There are outsourced opportunities. There are part-time employee opportunities. So that's my that's my comment on that. Revenue per role benchmarks. I would say, again, every company, first of all, understand what is your revenue per role benchmark for your customer delivery. I know what they are for contractors. I know what they are for healthcare providers. I know what that revenue per role benchmark is for accounting firms, for law firms. Excuse me, I'm having a little bit of a frog in my throat. So understand what that is for your type of business, and there are different ways to manage that depending on if you're a company that is selling your time, so to speak, or if you're selling widgets, etc. But understand what that role is, and then if you think there is opportunity for part-time hiring, probably if you think you can keep that person busy at 50% of that full-time equivalent revenue per role benchmark, then it's probably time to hire somebody. That's an off-the-cuff comment, but that's my comment there. The cost of hiring too soon versus waiting too long, and this plays into the full-time versus part-time aspect. And I think understanding that those part-time hires are important, and not waiting and not hiring full-time unless you know you're ready for that. But obviously, when you hire somebody, you're incurring an obligation to pay them, and that will drain your cash. So the obvious cost of hiring too soon is that you're not getting a return on that staff member, whether it's an employee or a contractor. You need a return. So if you hire too quickly, you're going to drain your cash. And then the question is, what is your reserve level, and can you afford that? All right, the role of financial forecasting in strategic hiring and expansion. Again, this might be a new concept to you. It may be a new concept, it may not be. If you are a sole proprietor and you have managed your business by understanding what's in the bank, then financial forecasting and budgeting might be a new thing for you. But I'll tell you, welcome to forecasting and welcome to owning a business, because budgeting, forecasting, managing cash flows is an inherent part of managing your business. I personally have a regular process in which I am forecasting and budgeting my cash flows. And business owners that are growing and business owners that are seeking outside capital will absolutely need to put some sort of financial forecasting in place to understand not just where you've been, but to understand where you're going and when can you hire somebody? What does your demand look like? That's really what a forecast is. It's a report that that tells you on an estimated basis, based on your own set of assumptions, what do I think is going to happen from a financial standpoint? What is my demand? How does that demand translate into sales? And then how are we going to execute on the delivery of our customer demands? We might need, right now, you might be able to do it all on your own, but eventually you're going to need help if that's what your goal is. And putting those forecasts and budgets in place will help you know when is the right time to hire, when is the right time to seek financing, when is the right time to put the next phase of your business into place. We talk about in this bullet point why you should never just make your hire based on your bank balance. You might have too much cash or too little cash, and it's just not the right way. Really putting this cash projection in place is the way it's done. It's the best practice, whether you are a Apple in a multi-billion-dollar enterprise or whether you are a contractor in your local community. It's the way it's done. How to use rolling forecast to time key decisions. If you're doing this in a way where you're probably, depending on what your goals are, you might have a weekly cash forecast, you might have a monthly or a quarterly process, probably a combination of both, a weekly or monthly for a while, and then extend it out over the next several years after that as well. And that will help you understand what your estimates are and how to align that with your plans. And then as time goes by, you can compare your actual activity to that, to those forecasts, and do ongoing updates. We talked about what the forecast includes beyond revenue, the other assumptions in terms of hiring, other costs, financing needs. That's a big one. Excuse me. Here's another nugget that I've alluded to it a few times, but as you are moving through this next phase, understand that you don't have to wait, and I've said it already before, you don't have to wait until you can afford to hire somebody full-time in order to accomplish all of your goals. We are in place from a financial standpoint to provide a sounding board, a peace of mind, so that you have somebody that can help you know how to get from A to B to C to D, from a financial standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. And you don't have to hire somebody full-time. You can hire somebody on a part-time basis that fits your needs, and that can grow with you. So that's my concept from a financial standpoint. Want to have conversations with people about that from a financial standpoint, but those same concepts apply to all the other things. You can hire part-time HR people, part-time sales people, part-time marketing people, and just understanding that that is probably a good first step for you as you grow your business. I think I've addressed all of these in my conversation, and I hope my comments have resonated and you take some nuggets away from that. All right, now we've moved into stage 3. You've decided in stage 1, this is what we want to do. Stage 2, what are a few first key steps? Stage 3 is then building for sustainable scale, and how do we do that? This is where we start to talk about infrastructure, putting plans in place, putting processes in place. I can't emphasize the importance of actually memorializing the way you do business. If you are ABC contractor, you need to memorialize the ABC contractor way. If you're a dentist, this is the way ABC dental practice does it. This is the way ABC Dental Practice does things. And memorializing that so that it's not all in your head will be key. It will be key as you hire people. It will be key as you seek external financing, whether that is investors, whether that is lending debt opportunities, whether that is having partners join you to help run the business and to take care of some of those roles. So that will be important. And it will also, you'll find it will take away, as I say in this slide, it will take away some chaos. It will take away having everything in your head. It will take away the need to decide with everything that you do, how do we do things? We have it memorialized. Think about going to various businesses, going to a restaurant. They're not figuring out with every moment how they deliver food to you, how they take your food. They have a way. And that structure is important. So the types of systems that are in place really align with all the different roles of the business. There will be a hiring way. There will be a sales and a sales funnel way. There will be a plan with your marketing. There will be a way we manage the accounting and bookkeeping and the financial reporting. There will be timelines with all of these, and it will all be memorialized. There will be definitions of the various roles that you need. And again, it's an evolving process. So it's a living document. It's a living structure that's growing, especially at the beginning. How to assess if your processes can handle more volume? Well, I would say if you have no processes, then you probably are going to have some chaos until you memorialize those processes. So would you be able to leave for a week, 2 weeks, and have somebody else run your business? Either from experience and or from the live manual that memorializes your processes. That's a question to ask. Would somebody be able to take this over? If you were to sell this business and leave the business altogether, would the new owners be able to just pick up and understand the way that your dental practice works, that your nonprofit works, that your contractor business works? Would they be able to know how your business has been running? Because the way your business runs is, honestly, it's the key to the success that you've had. If the key to the success that you've had is, and I think this is a good nugget, if the key to the success that you've had is your own character, your own personality and persona, if that is the key to the success in your business, then you don't really have a business that is ready to turn over to somebody else. You need to have a business that sustains beyond your own smile and personality. And I think that's important to understand. The drag of poor handoffs, unclear roles, and weak reporting is that, remember, we're talking about this in the context of your desire to grow for either growth's sake or for exit's sake or for just meeting more need for impact's sake. There will come a time when you will want additional financing. You will want to have people looking at and evaluating your business. If you don't have this structure in place, you're going to hit a wall. You're going to think, I'm just using numbers. You think in the next 2 months, we're going to seek this financing, but you don't have this stuff in place. It's going to come to light very quickly. And so putting this stuff in place before you want to seek that financing, before you want to have somebody evaluating your business for whatever reason is important. So that will be the drag of unclear roles and weak reporting and chaotic infrastructure. All right. Expansion strategy, how to grow without overextending. Well, let's talk about a couple things. The difference between expansion and duplication. Sometimes you might want to just duplicate what you're doing. You're in ABC community and you want to do provide your service in XYZ community, or maybe you're in the south side of the community and you want to expand this to the north side of the community. Duplicating your business by expanding to new locations is one thing, as opposed to service expansion, in which you are taking advantage of the market that you have, the following that you have from your customers, and offering them a different service. And the path that you take will be different for those two things. What your financials must prove before you open a new location or offer additional services? Well, you must prove that you have a viable following, that you have a viable set of demand, that you also can effectively run the business in a way that generates profit, that generates an ability to earn a living for yourself, but also so that you can pay back debt, pay investors if you're moving into that, taking that path. You need to be able to show on a historical basis, probably a couple years, if not longer, to be able to attract the outside capital that you'll need to scale. How to align growth plans with operational capacity and market timing? Well, I would say, again, if you're managing your financial reporting, you're putting these processes in place, it will be fairly self-evident that it's time, and plus you're putting these forecasts in place. You can estimate what that capacity is and market timing is. There's certainly ways to calculate debt capacity, what you could take on, by understanding what your current profit is, and then from that extrapolating how much debt you could take on, how much financing you could take on. And it's called a debt capacity calculation. And that will give you a sense for what kind of financing you could attract. But that's my comment there. All right, the last slide is how to lead through your next transition. And I end with a few points that comes back to what we started with, the mindset shift from founder to CEO, from founder to visionary, in which the business is being run by a team, not just by you. Remember, this is really, I'm talking to sole proprietors here. So I hope I've impressed upon you the need to change your mindset from working in the business to working on the business. But I reiterate, that doesn't mean that all you do is stare out the window and think about vision. You will probably spend part of your time continuing to work on all of those roles: marketing, sales, hiring, customer delivery, vision, overall operations, seeking financing. You're still probably at the beginning, especially, going to do those things, but managing to that and navigating through that in phases is what I hope you've taken from this. What strategic planning actually looks like during scaling. Strategic planning sounds like this wonky word. Actually, at my client location this week, we've been talking about that. It just sounds like an overwhelming, nebulous concept. But honestly, what strategic planning is understand what is our vision, where do we want to be in X amount of months or years or quarters, whatever that time frame is, and it's probably multiple time frames, and how to get from where we are today to where we want to be. We have to articulate where we are today, what we want to be, back into what needs to happen. And that is a very common strategic planning approach. Don't let the word strategic planning get in your way. Why clarity, forecasting, and visibility matter more than ever? Well, it's hard to get financing. We're in a little bit higher interest rate environment. It's probably more normal than we want to admit, but it is certainly higher and tighter environment today than it was a few years ago. So having these processes in place, we're in the information age, so there is a lot of information to be gleaned, and it will be evaluated very precisely with a magnifying glass. I end with just thinking about, I'm envisioning, and I'm hoping that some contractors see this. And I think about a large construction firm that I know of on the East Coast. And you think of yourself as a contractor or a small business owner, and you're swinging a hammer, and you are doing the customer sales meetings. You're talking to your banker, you're talking to your tax accountant, and you're also out building decks or building whatever you're doing. And or maybe you are a dental. It's not really just contractors, but you have a small business and you're doing a lot of those things. I'm familiar with a construction contractor that is so large that the CEO wears a suit and tie every day. That person's not swinging a hammer. What are they doing? They're talking to lenders, they're talking to bankers, they're talking to investors, they're talking to their suppliers, they're project managing their large commercial projects. That is Step Z. They've of course been around for decades. They started out as a small firm, and they at one point, it's a family-owned business. At one point, the father was swinging a hammer, and they put these plans in place to where now the leadership of the firm, they're not actually building anything. They are executing on the vision and running the operations of the business. And understanding that is where you can get to if you put a plan in place. And honestly, that is the legacy that you can build that can be multi-generational. So I just wanted to talk about that today and give a few nuggets. Hopefully you can take a few nuggets from this. Thank you for watching this, and hopefully you've taken a few nuggets, and don't hesitate to reach out. We're just trying to put ideas out there, give you a sense that you're not alone if you're trying to figure these things out. We offer assistance with these growth plans. We can be a safe sounding board. We can help represent you as you seek financing. We can help you put these processes in place. But honestly, it all starts with just a conversation, and happy to do that. I reiterate that we have a white paper on this subject, as well as with several other subjects. And you can find lots of educational material on our social media and on our website. And very quickly, next month, we'll be talking about a mid-year financial review. Are you on track to hit your goals? And hopefully that will be of use to you. So I end with saying thank you. See you next webinar. Hopefully I'll get some questions and comments and be able to have some conversations with you. Happy to have that conversation with anybody, anytime. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you again for watching, and be well, and God bless.